Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We're in kind of the end of April here. Hope you're having a great day, great week, and good to have you joining us live. My name's Peter. I am the host of this stream, and tonight we're going to get into some flip fluids, and we're going to do some we're going to do some whitewater with our flip fluids. So this was a suggestion on the Discord server, and just figured I'd give it a whirl, see what we can do. Haven't done any any real flip fluids, I don't think, in a while. So hopefully this will be an interesting topic for everyone. Hey Zach, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you. Welcome. So like I said, we're going to take, maybe just look at some fluids, first make a real simple fluid simulation, and then look and see how, the whitewater sourcing works from there. I actually think I might use mainly the SOP level tools to do this. I just think it's a little bit, more straightforward to understand the workflow instead of, especially from like if you're building, a wave tank or whatever, and you want to have the waves like follow, some sort of ocean setup that you have. I feel like it's a little bit more straightforward to understand the SOP level first, and then maybe take a look at some of the DOP level tools or whatever. So I think we're going to just look at the SOP level stuff tonight. Not that it's really that different, but I think there's just a more logical like workflow that you can get to from there, especially if you're unsure of how to get flip, how to get whitewater from flip. I think it's a much nicer workflow to get there with the SOP based tools. So we'll take a look at that, see how we can go, how we get along with that. And we'll go from there. So first of all, I am just making a little project here for myself. So that's what we're going to get up to tonight. And hey, Fractaler, welcome. If you have any thoughts or questions, ideas, things that I'm doing stupidly, feel free to put those in the chat. Always happy to have, you guys kind of adding to this conversation as we go along. I am certainly not the foremost expert on any of these things. So happy to, happy to hear from any and all of you, for any extra, thoughts or details that you might think would be helpful for people to learn this. So, please feel free to, drop those things in the comments at any point. If you have questions, please always feel free to ask those. There's no dumb Houdini questions here, so please feel free to drop those in whenever, whenever you might when they might come to your mind. If you have the question, probably somebody else does as well. So you can do yourself and everybody else a favor and see all good, zero issues, amazed by the content. I don't know what that means, but cool. I'm glad. Hey, Angus, welcome. Cool. So I guess without any further ado, we'll get into it and see what we can get up to. Excuse me. Sorry. Had a cough there. Let's jump in and see what we can do. Don't do the dramatic dissolve. There we go. Okay. So the first thing that I think we should probably take a look at is how does whitewater, work when we're dealing with, just a straight fluid simulation, something really, really standard. So let's add a geometry node here. Let's call this sim, I don't know, simple flip, something like that. I don't know. That'll work. And let's go inside here. And so what I think I'm going to do is just set up some geometry that we can use for a bit of a collider to just, what I meant, really enjoying these sessions. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad, Fractal. That's great. I'm glad you're enjoying the sessions. I mean, please feel free to have issues as we go through here. I don't know everything, so it's nice to have people correct me and make sure that this content is good. And so if you know a lot of things, then feel free to correct me. All right. So let's see here. What do we want to do? Let's do something really straightforward. Let's grab, if I can type, a box. Let's drop that down. Let's make it a bit flatter. We want it to be fairly large because flip works better with, large scale stuff. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, something like that. Maybe we'll do something like this. And all right, so I'm just going to do something really quick and easy here. Let's do an edge loop. We'll just cut some edge loops on here, and I'm just going to kind of make a little, oops, got to hit tab first before you start typing there. Edge loop, there we go. So let's just make a couple edge loops here. We'll just kind of make some geometry. Let's see here. So if we shift click. There we go. Just want to make that a little more even. There we go. All right, so let's do another edge loop over here. And we'll just cut another one here. Let's see. Oops. I'm doing this very non-procedurally, so please do not, please don't be alarmed. All right, so we'll do one more here, maybe another edge loop. Cool. All right, that looks good. Let's change our selection to polygons, and I'm just going to select some, oops. Also, I'm going to turn off the backside visibility or backside selection. There we go. We can do something like that. And maybe we'll do this one as well. So let's do keep forgetting to hit tab, poly extrude. There we go. We'll extrude this up. Something like that, maybe. Sure, cool. We'll do selection, remove that, do another poly extrude, and we'll go up with this. We'll just make a little thing here that's going to do something sort of interesting, right? Okay, cool. So let's do that. And let's now... Just trying to think of exactly how I want to do this. Let's do some sort of roughness type situation here, where we can, roughen up the bottom of this. So maybe what we'll do is, we'll just do a remesh on this, honestly. Oops. So we'll do a remesh, get a bunch of points, maybe move that down a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. And let's just do let's do an attribute adjust vector. And we can change, actually, you know what? We could probably do, yeah, this is fine. Do an attribute adjust. We'll change this to P. Let this change this over to noise. And yeah, awesome. That's what you want. All right, let's do this. We'll set it to 0 centered so that we're getting some, you know, noise that's relatively nice in here. And let's see. What am I? Yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. Cool. Just give it a little bit of random noise to it. Good enough. And yeah, I think that's fine. That looks good enough to me. All right, so we'll just have like a little kind of stair step thing here. Maybe we'll do... I don't know, maybe we'll do a little rock in here or something too. That could be kind of interesting. Like on one of these sides. Yeah, let's do that. Just add in a sphere, polygon sphere. I'll change it over to just standard polygon, and we'll turn this up a little bit. We'll just do this same thing. I'll actually just grab the same node. That's really what I want to do, is do some noise to it. Probably up that a little bit like so. Maybe the amplitude a little bit more on it. And let's merge these together. So shift click both of those and merge them. Oh, I don't have my little display on, so I'll turn that on for you all. Great. Let's see here. Let's just move this over into position for us. So maybe we'll move it up here like this, and we'll just make it like something like that, just to make it a little bit more interesting, let's say. Cool. And let's also just do, actually that's too much. Let's just do a little bit of something like this. Just kind of, you know, so it's angled a little bit. I mean, it's not realistic, but hey, it's something. It's a rock. So we've got like a little waterfall-y kind of thing happening here. So let's do that. Okay, great. So I'm going to put a null down. Sorry, I have a new keyboard that I've been getting used to, and it is really nice, but it is a little different than my old one, so I'm just getting used to it. So there might be a lot more of misclicks than mistyping than usual. So let's just say this is going to be our rocks. We put those yellow. Okay, cool. So we've got this. Let's now make our flip, in basically our flip simulation for us here. How many meters across is this actually? Do I want to scale this up a little bit? This is like, oh, sorry, I can just look here. It's 2.25 meters. Yeah, maybe we want to make that a little bigger. Just scale it up by like 3 or something. Yeah, that's probably better. What is it? So that'll be, yeah, that's better. That's great. Okay, so we've got this here. That's our rocks. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say geo rock formation like that, and then we'll just add another one here, just to be a little cleaner with this. Let's say sim flip Whitewater. Cool. And that will be purple. And we'll go over here and we'll object merge that in. This isn't necessary, right? But sometimes it's nice to just have a little bit of a cleaner workflow. So we've got this object merge. We'll say get rock formation. Great. Now we have that. I'm going to hide the other objects, so we're only seeing what's in this geometry node. Okay, so let's first make our flip container. There we go. Oops. Flip container. There we go. And this is obviously going to be our, our bounding area for the simulation. So I'll just kind of set this up to more or less match this. The other thing I can do actually, which is kind of nice here, I could do this instead. I could do bounds. Just do a bound like this. Grab it from our geometry here. Hey, axis, welcome. I'm going to put that in like that. And then I can just adjust like the upper padding a little bit to give us a little more space there. And this will actually give us our boundary from that. So now we have our actual boundary here to this flip simulation. So that's nice. That'll be good for us. Cool. So we've got that. The other thing that we can do is, let's just see here. Do I want to do any of this stuff? No. Okay, cool. So then from there, what we want to do is have some sort of a source. So I'm just going to do flip source, and we can just do a velocity source is fine. We'll wire that in. And we need to have some sort of geometry here for this. So I'm just going to grab like a tube, I guess, or sorry, tube. There we go. Polygonal tube. We'll wire that in. I'm going to set this in the z-axis. Is it me? I have a black screen. You have a black screen on Twitch. Interesting. Let me just double check that real quick. Interesting. I have a black screen on there as well. Huh. That is really weird. I would go over to YouTube maybe. I don't know why. Don't know why we have a blank screen on Twitch. That's really interesting. Let me just double check here. Let me try this. Hold on. Let me see. Let me double check here. Okay, it might be back now. Okay, it looks like we're good. I just had a weird... Cool. Okay, there we go. You should have it on Twitch now if you're watching. Sorry about that. Thank you for the heads up. I think I started and stopped the stream before because I was running into an issue with some of my sources and stuff like that. So anyways, all right, looks like we are back. So that's good. Yeah, I just switched. I had a black screen on Twitch as well. So yeah, it was 100% true. So hey, accessible, welcome. Oh, that must be you on this one. Gotcha. On YouTube. Nice. All right. So let's just adjust this here, and we'll bring this up in this range here. Fex VFX was asking, will you do the Whitewater custom and pops? No, I'm gonna probably do the oh, there you go. Yeah, less latency on Twitch. Good. Yeah, I wish I could do less on YouTube, but it is what it is, you know. I guess that's just how it works. All right, so let's give it a little more like this. Cool. And we've got our tube here. Let's put end caps on it like so. Yeah, there we go. I was like, why is that not being a volume? Now it is. Okay, cool. So we have our flip source there. We've got our flip container here. Flip source. All right. The next thing we need to do is do a flip, collide. And so we'll do that, and we will wire in our source over here. So now we have our collision, like so. And then we should be able to do our flip solver, wire that in down here. And let's take a look, see what we got here. Looks like we've got fluid flowing, doing its thing. I am going to change the visualization here to not do the points as spheres. I find that to be incredibly annoying. That might just be me. I'm also going to do my background dark gray, and we can turn off maybe the collision. Turn this off. Interesting. Reset. Huh. Okay, well, that's weird. I don't know why I'm still seeing it, but I am. That's okay. All right, so let's do that. Let's hit play here, see what happens. So we'll give this a second to kind of flow through, do its thing. And I will give it a second here while this goes. Cool. Getting some nice little flow here, and some stuff's going over the the rock there. You know, get a little thing happening here. Yeah, it's a little slower. Yeah, it's not quite as fast, but nice. So we can get a little bit further into the process here and talk a little bit more about, you know, exactly what it is that we're looking at. The other thing, actually, I was just thinking of, is that I'm pretty sure that we can add in a water line. If I'm not, yeah, there we go. We can add a water line in here. And let's lift that up maybe a little bit. Because really, it'd be good to just have some water in there already. There's no reason to have, you know, no reason to have anything too crazy here. Let's see. Probably want to pad this a little bit. So if we take this down on each of these. Oops. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 17. That's what I meant to do. Maybe we'll do that like -1 on each of these axes, and then like 1.5. Let's see. That would be on the X or the Z. So let's do -1.5. We can do 1.5 there. Nope. Sorry. -1.5 again. Cool. That's pretty good. Then we could also bring the lower Y up a little bit. No reason to have it simulating water underneath it. Like that. Cool. Great. And now if we hit play, we should have a similar situation here, except that we will have some fluid there already. And that'll be kind of nice to not have to wait for that bottom part to kind of fill up before we have, you know, collisions and interactions and things like that. So that's just turning on the water line feature in this. So that's kind of nice to do. And definitely, if you're doing much larger fluid simulations and things like that, you would want to probably use the you'd want to use the DOP solver, but I think this will be perfectly fine for what it is that we're going to be doing here. So this will be cool. We'll get some nice, interaction with this kind of static water here, and it's going to kind of propagate along that lower thing as well. And that's going to cause some churn and bubbles and things like that to happen as well. So I think that's really nice for the whitewater kind of thing that we're looking at here. So let's take a look at this, see what it is we're getting here. Yeah, we're getting some cool kind of fluid interaction there. Let's see. Let's just hit play and see what happens here. Yeah, nice. We'll let that keep going. So this is just a pretty straightforward fluid simulation. Nothing crazy. We're just kind of letting it do its thing. And from here, we can then start to look at some of the processes that we would use to make whitewater. Now, the other thing I should probably do as well is add some random velocity to this top emitter. We're getting a bit too perfect flow along here, but it's fine. We're just doing a quick little demo to kind of see what this might look like and just to get a sense for how exactly this is working. And like I said, I really do think that this SOP workflow, even though it might be slightly slower, it's pretty quick to set up, and you get a nice quick hit of okay, yep, everything seems like it's working. You could then take this and implement it in DOPS if you wanted to as well. It is just, I think, unquestionably faster to just set this up like this and start getting some results from the get-go. So let's do this, and what we're gonna do here. So we've got this coming down and flowing in like that. Getting a nice little setup there. Looking good. Cool. Yeah, I guess I'll just let this finish solving here. Obviously, this isn't like a super high resolution sim or anything like that, but I think it gives you an idea for what it is that we're going to be getting. We'll let this cache out or simulate out to the end. And what we could do is we can add a let's see, what is that going to be called? Fluid compress. So we've got our fluid compress node here, and we can use this to compress our geometry down to something like this, where we just have this packed representation of our fluid. The benefit of this here, obviously, is that we're going to have less that we have to save out to disk. Now in this case, that's good. We can do it like this. Yeah, like that. Then we can do a file cache. We can just write this out to disk. This other stuff here is the container and collisions. We don't need to write those to disk. We can write this out here. We'll just say hip sim. We'll just call this simple flip cache. Great. And I am going to save that to disk, not in the background, because it would have to spin up a new process of Houdini and redo the simulation. So I'm just going to do that right there. Give it a second. Let it do its thing. Oh, interesting. My video went away, didn't it? Okay. I swear, I'm having more and more trouble with this computer. Okay, there we go. I don't know how that happened, but there we go. I'm back. Hopefully you can all hear me and see me and everything. Ay. What a pain. Computers. All right, so let's see here. So we've got this loaded from disk. We've got our simulation going. Great. If you want to, you could do after this, you could do a particle fluid surface. And that can use this, and we can wire these in as well, like this and this. And we could could do particles instead. Yeah, you were hearing me? Great. That's good. I'm glad to hear. But yeah, so you could do it like this, and we could see the whole simulation go through like so. Great. Yeah, there we go. So we've got the particle fluids that we can actually, or the cache that we can see. This file cache is obviously going to make this a smaller save to disk, because we're going to be saving volumes and particles and things like that. So it's just a good idea this fluid compressor right here. It's a good idea to use that. And yeah, just a good idea. So, all right. So we've got this so far. Let's do the Whitewater source here, I believe is what we want to do. And so for here, we can grab our simulation. Oh, actually, we probably want to grab that one. And we'll grab this and this. And let's come down here to this source. And so what this is going to do is look at our simulation and find different parts of this simulation that we want to source our different particles from, right? So here, did I enable full bandwidth in the flip compress? I have it at just its default bandwidth. I didn't do anything really beyond that. What you'll see here is that there is a bandwidth where we're actually clipping out an interior surface, basically. This is the compressed fluid surface. So that is what we're seeing there. If I was to hide this, we could take a look at the difference here. If we were to go, yeah, so what we would do here is we can say how much bandwidth from the surface that we want to keep, right? So we could go higher with it and we'll have more of the fluid bandwidth that would go to it. But I don't think that's really going to adjust this at all here, really. Maybe a little bit in there, but very, very small difference. So I think we'll be safe with that bandwidth there. So I'm going to turn this back on. And no, it's not a problem to have that hole there. No, because what's happening in this fluid compress here is something a little interesting. So let's do this. Let's change this to particles and compressed fluid surface. And so what we're actually getting here is we have particles, right? So like up here, wherever it's very thin, we're representing it with particles, right? But where we get really thick amounts of fluid, there's not really a reason to save every particle in that interior volume. So we save this as the compressed surface, basically this compressed fluid surface. And so that is where we're saving this surface out. And so that allows us to kind of represent the interior of this a little bit differently and not have to have particles throughout the whole thing. So yeah, it's not a problem. And if you have, like say right over here, where you have these particles flowing in, they're actually going to be adjusting this surface. So right, it stays flat like that. And as they flow in, you'll actually see this surface kind of adjust and undulate based on how like thick the fluid is there. So it's really just a way to save some data, basically, when you're saving it to disk, and we're just compressing that interior. And that's why when we're looking at the particles like this, there is still some data that's happening on the inside there. It's just, yeah. So Fractaler, it's not, yeah, I mean, partially the rendering side of things, sure. I would really think of it more as like that is a solid mass of water. And so there's no reason to display it or to represent it as particles. You can represent it as a volume and then kind of denote, hey, this is the surface. So everything inside of here should just react like a solid mass of liquid when we mesh it. because we're going to eventually mesh it to a surface. And so in those areas, we don't really need to worry about that as much. So that's why you would do it like that. Now, you could also then, once you've surfaced it, then you could use that surface as like a volume for the rendering side of things to like make it blurry, like as it goes through, because it's going to have a certain density or whatever. But in this case, we're mainly just looking at it from like, what is the surface of this fluid actually look like? So yeah, okay. So let's go down here a little bit more, maybe a little further in this, and let's grab our whitewater source. And so what we're going to be getting here is a different, we're going to be sourcing from different things here, right? So we're going to be sourcing from all sorts of things like if the surface is deforming, so we could do that, right? And we're going to have some emission there from the deformation of the surface. We're emitting from the curvature, acceleration, and vorticity. We could also do it based on splash, as we could also emit our splash or pressure. Now that I actually think what we need to do for the pressure side of things is we would need to keep pressure on up here, I think. Let me just see if that's true or not. If we do this, yeah. So we could do that. We would need to have that saved in the file cache. I could actually write that back out to it. Save that to disk really quick. Luckily, that's all still in our actual blue cache there. Hey, comrade. Well, thanks for the subscription. Welcome to the stream. All right, so we'll do that. Let it save itself out. There we go. And then if we load this in, we should have the exact same thing here, right? So now what we're doing is we're looking at, a bunch of different, I'm doing great. How are you doing? We've got a bunch of different things that we can, we can source from. So here we might be getting differences in pressure, right? So that's going to be, a place where we could emit particles from. Obviously the deformation here might emit particles in different ways as well. So let's take a look at maybe how this is going to start. The streaming is going fine. Thank you. So what we're going to be looking at here is a couple of different VDBs that are going to exist. And we'll see that obviously we have emission and surface, velocity, pressure, things like that. Let's now drop down a Whitewater solver. Solver, there we go. If we wire this in, it's going to take a second because I'm at frame 64. So let's go back here. Let's go back. Back. There we go. Okay. So now we're seeing our collisions again, right? Because obviously if this Whitewater solver is going to be sourcing particles and things like that in here, we need to control that, right? We need to have those particles not just go flying all over the place. So let's start sourcing this and see what we get up to here. I think we have too many particles coming in at the beginning here. So let me just look at this. Yes, we definitely have too many there. All right, well, let's just leave it like this and see what we get up to without the pressure turned on. So let's just do this and see where we start to get particles sourced in here. Yep. So we're seeing, obviously this is kind of the initial sort of wake of the water coming down here. We see some splashing particles and things like that going up into the air. We've got some foam that's going to be kind of laying on top of this water here. And we'll just let this kind of go for a second. It's not going to take a lot of data for this to simulate. So let's just let this roll and see how it goes. So it looks like we have maybe a little bit too much sitting on the surface there. We'll let it kind of go and meander and see what we get into. But obviously we can adjust the sources, adjust where we're sourcing from. That's kind of the most important thing here, right? We're obviously putting way too much particles into this. So we want to be mindful of that. But the other thing actually I'm going to do is I think I'm going to, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these together. Hopefully we can see that. Yeah, I think that's decent. That should be sort of visible. Great. So let's do that and we can kind of look at the simulation here as it goes. Let it finish its simulation up here. And so what we should see in a second here when this is all done are that these particles will each have different different kind of attributes on them that tell us what type of what type of material it is that we're looking at here. What kind of a particle these are. So let's let that go through and we can kind of see this here. And if we look at this, I believe if we look at the output here, we're going to see, actually, let me open up my geometry spreadsheet. What we should see is that these whitewater particles will be different amounts of each of these. Here we have bubbles, we have foam, and we have spray, right? And so what we should be able to do here is, let's see. Is there a whitewater post process? Yeah, I think so. Yes, let's do this. I wonder if this will actually do that for us, if I'm remembering correctly here. Well, they're big spheres, so that's interesting. Well, that's kind of cool too. We're going to actually get, p-scale attributes and things like that we can have set. But let's do this. Let's turn this off. And yeah, we could actually do this. Let's see. We don't want it to be quite that big, but let's do something like this here. Maybe 0.3, something like that. And we can... So there we go. We're going to get different scales based on what the particles are actually doing there. So the spray should have different scaled particles than than the white water and foam and stuff like that. So we could also do this too. You could also adjust it so that based on their age, they're going to get different scales and things like that, right? So in this case, they're scaling up over their age. You could have something where, let's see here, if we did like a hill where they would go small and then get bigger and then kind of fade out over their life, right? So you could do something like that. There's lots of different things that we can do here, obviously, with these particles when we're looking to get them to, show up in our render at the end here. Actually, that's looking way better anyways, because now we're going to be, we're not getting this huge amount of particles up here. We're really getting them based on, they kind of have to grow a little bit and then they can exist as a larger scaled particle here. So that's actually looking okay. What we can do too is we can go back and look at this whitewater source here. And this, again, like I said, is going to really drive kind of how this works. And let's look at this. Let's just adjust the voxel scale here. I think we can do this and get a little bit finer control over where these are getting sourced. So that's fine. That should be good. And we can look at this. So what we're thinking about here when we're sourcing these particles is that we're going to be looking at what is the vorticity, the acceleration, the curvature of this fluid, And from those places, we are going to be sourcing. Let's actually turn this off for a second and let's just see what this might look like too if we didn't have the deformation source on. Let's just see what that looks like, just out of curiosity. So we'll come down here, we'll hit play. Just let this sim out for a second here. Actually, I'm going to bring it up here so we can actually see all the particles before they're scaled or anything like that. Okay. Looks pretty similar, actually. Yeah, it's pretty similar. The interesting thing that's happening here is we're getting a little bit of sort of like the churn here is kind of coming up as these particles, right? So the other thing that I just want to kind of point out here is that we might want to have these, you know, you might want to have these different particles here kind of separated by how much of each of these attributes that we're actually seeing. So like, for example, we've got bubbles here, and those have a certain amount, right? So there's some that are 100% bubble here, some that are, you know, 0% foam, and then also 0% spray. So what you would probably want to do there is have some sort of basically like a color ramp we could do. Let's try that. Let's do color attribute adjust color. Let's try that. Okay. And let's only we'll do CD and we'll do this. We'll do remap attribute and actually, you know what? Sorry, just thinking out loud here. Okay, there we go. Let's just do a little bit of X because I think this will be better to do anyways. Okay, so we'll do this. So we're just gonna do, we're gonna say vector color equals, and then we're just gonna do a set function, and we're gonna get these three different things. So let's say, let's just say we wanna grab bubble, foam, and spray. So spray will be blue, foam will be green, and bubble will be red. So let's do set f at bubble, and then we'll say f at foam, and then we'll do f at spray. So this should color it based on that. So this will be a color, and then we'll just do at CD, v at CD is equal to color. And let's see, will that do it for us? Yes, it does seem to be doing it. Yep. So we've got our bubbles down there under the water. And yeah, so if we look at this here and kind of watch it go through, we'll see that we have our bubbles under the water there, and we have our spray coming up, and then our foam is everything that's kind of sitting on the top here. Let me turn off the particle scale. Let's just do this. Let's turn off the set particle scale attribute. Can we? Yeah, let's do that. And we'll turn off the display as spheres. And now we can see sort of what's going on here and where we're getting spray and where we're getting foam. So there you see when this hits like that, we're getting some spray that's coming up there, right? And so what I would do is I would basically group these into different, categories based on the type of particles that you're getting from this whitewater process, right? So you're getting spray, and then you're getting bubbles that are going under there, under the water and stuff like that. So for each of these different types of, uh, particle basically that's coming off of here, each of these whitewater particles, you would kind of treat those differently, right? Like a foam on the surface is going to be maybe more volumetric versus a spray should be something particle based so that you can see those individual spray coming off. And really what you could do is even have these in multiple places, right? You set a threshold maybe for them to be grouped into each of those different groups. And then as they go beyond that threshold, they'll be included in that as well. And you'll get, a bubble or a spray or whatever, whatever you might be doing with the rendering side of this. It still does feel like we've got a little too much foam happening on top of here, but also this is a very unrealistic scenario. So we've got kind of this really funky situation happening here where it's just not super practical what would actually be happening here. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not going to say that it's completely unrealistic. I mean, we're getting some nice leftover foam. I mean, I think there's a little bit too much that comes over in the very first kind of set of motion there. But once we get down here, we're getting some nice breaking up of those particles, right? And so that's going to be all controlled in the solver, right? So obviously we've got this is basically is going to be some sort of a particle kind of solver, right? We're working with particles here. So we have things like oh, interesting. I was thinking that those would be controlled there, so that's interesting. Sorry, I'm just realizing that these are here as well. Okay. Yeah, I guess you could decouple the scale of your whitewater as well. You'd have more particles in your simulation, but yeah, it's just like we could decouple the voxel size here from this domain. We can decouple the voxel size in our solver as well. It seems to be working fairly well, so I'm not going to overly worry about that. But yeah, again, here we've got our emission amount. If we wanted there to be overall less emission in here, we could set this to half, for example. And then when we started this up, we're going to get half the amount of particles being sourced. So that might solve some of our issues that we were dealing with there, where we were getting way too many maybe at the start. Yeah, it seems like we're maybe getting a little bit less there. It's maybe not quite as high. We can also set up here the lifespan as well of our particles. So if we wanted these particles to die off much sooner, we could do that as well. So we could give it 2, and just let's see how that'll look here. I think that's 2 seconds that we'll see. So I think what we'll probably notice that most in is when we get to the part that's sitting kind of on the static water at the bottom. I think we'll see a lot less of it kind of linger there as it was before. Yeah, I think I can already see that this is looking a little bit different here. There's not quite as much kind of holding on down here. We're getting a little bit more loose kind of, tendrils that are kind of going away on top of the water there. That's, I think, too little, but we could kind of find somewhere in between, maybe do 4. That's cool. Again, here we're getting the forces that are going to be happening. And what this is doing is it's looking at the surface, the surface from our simulation, and using that to determine how much buoyancy are we getting as we go into that surface, right? At a certain point, we're going to have no buoyancy, and at other, when we're really low in it, we're going to have basically total buoyancy towards the surface, and then it's going to trail off as we get higher and higher up to it, right? Advection by depth, same thing. We're going to have this kind of top level where we're getting a lot of advection, where maybe lower down we're getting like 50% advection, things like that. So we could also add in wind, right? So we could add in a wind velocity, and that would pick it up, I believe, the spray once it came up. So let's try that actually. If we did the wind velocity in, not in X, but let's do -5 in the Z. Yeah, let's see what that does, because I think that's going to take the spray particles, which are going to be the dark blue particles. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to color these white, I think, just so we can see the other particles maybe a little more clearly on top of it, because those will all be colored. So I'm pretty sure when they turn blue, they're going to blow to the right. They should, at least, hopefully. We'll see if we can see any of that happening. Let's see here. Where did our spray go? Oh, yeah. I think I'm seeing that right there. Let's turn on our... this isn't really working very well. What about that? Is that better? I don't know. It's really hard to see all these different colors and things. But yeah, you can actually... I think you can see it right there. It hits the spray and then it shoots to the side. Obviously, that's not realistic, but... you know, we could maybe lower that a little bit. Let's just do -1, because I think it's really going crazy there. And we can just have the wind speed be 2. Maybe the area resistance is even less, so maybe we'll do it like that. And let's see what that does now. Should maybe a little bit more realistically take that spray, because obviously now those are ballistic particles, right? We're kind of allowing those to behave differently than the rest of our simulation here. So let's see what happens when those hit that spray there and see if they go as crazy. I don't think they will. No, they're not going as crazy. They're blowing a little bit to the side, right? They're kind of going that way, but yeah, it's a much more controlled movement to the side than it was before. So you can see it there. Actually, maybe that's the best way to see it. They're seeing it kind of move over in the -Z direction. So that is something you could do as well. We'll turn that off, and we should see actually in that those will just fall more ballistically based on their velocity when they're kind of leaving, you know, being sourced and turning into actual spray. But it's really interesting. These particles all kind of exist on a continuum, right? They're all sort of constantly changing between spray and foam and things like that. So yeah, now we're not seeing this really moving quite as fast to the in the -Z direction. So cool. All right, let's turn off these trails. We can maybe look at this a little bit closer like that. That actually works pretty good. Yeah. All right, cool. So we're starting to kind of get an idea for how this works. Hopefully, we can also control here the foam, the look of the foam, right? So this is going to be the clumping and how much it again repels against it. So it's going to be basically separating itself, right? How we're getting those kind of these sort of loosening areas here where we kind of get these gaps and they kind of grow and turn into different almost like little tendrils and things like that. Like it creates these different little random shapes. And that's something that happens naturally in fluid, right? And in when you're looking at water and oceans and things like that. So you're getting these sort of repellent forces, and then they're going to slowly sort of die off as we, as sort of these bubbles go away, the foam kind of pops and turns into some, you know, basically turns back, you know, reincorporates into the water. So that's again where that lifespan comes in. So these are all multiple things that we have to kind of think about and control and deal with. You know, maybe you want a little bit stronger, you know, force happening there where you're going to see or a longer lifespan on those particles and things like that. So, you know, there's, like I said, there's a million different ways you can take this, and I'm not going to go through every parameter and look at each and everything separately. I think we can sort of get the idea for how this is working here. Let me just turn this on too so we can sort of see what's happening here. We're obviously getting collision with the walls and things like that. So that's all working fine. Yeah. So we've got like kind of a nice looking overall simulation going here. And again, we've got the bubbles that are coming underneath the surface here. If we look down underneath, we're going to see these red bubbles coming down and then turning back into foam and lifting up and things like that. Yeah, there's lots of different things happening, not only just on the surface, but below the surface as well. So this is a very kind of dynamic type of solver that's got a lot of different ways that you can change the inputs and kind of work on it there. Let's see here. If we look at the Whitewater source again, let's just take a look at this as well here. So what we can do is we can look at each of these different parameters, right? And kind of we could also recompute these based on certain data. So like, let's say we get up to 120 here. What is our surface looking like at this point? Yeah, we've got a pretty active surface here. So what you could do too is we could look at the range from the data and recompute that, right? And we could get, a much more, kind of continuous flow like this. And then we could take that and remap it, right? So we could, remap this. So we can, let's see here, take this and just see where that goes. What are we getting here from our curvature? It's actually not very much. Acceleration, not as much. It's really mostly from our vorticity. So let's take a look at that. Getting a little bit from curvature, but most of it's coming from our vorticity. So this could be a way you could go about it too. You could compute the range, and then you could come in here and kind of tweak where you want these things to be sourced, right, from your vorticity. So maybe it's there. I don't know. Maybe that's where you want to have stuff sourced from. And if we took this here, yep, so that's going to do the same thing. I was thinking that would. Okay, so you could do something like that. And this will obviously give us a much different looking kind of set of sources and things like that. So we could do that and just kind of look at these values and sort of just tweak them a little bit. See where we're sourcing from. Cool. Let's just see what that does. I don't know. Just kind of playing around with things here, seeing what works, what doesn't. Let's look at this and go back to the beginning. Obviously, this kind of start of a fluid flow like this is very unrealistic. So again, we'll be seeing some strange behaviors there that wouldn't particularly happen in reality. And what I think we might see here a little bit more is more of this kind of underwater stuff happening, which is actually kind of interesting. I think that's, there certainly would be a lot of this kind of churning bubbles happening underneath the water. And I think that's something that would be kind of interesting because we're seeing a lot more of that here. And that actually feels more accurate to me. So going in and tweaking those sources are going to give you, a nicer, set of parameters that you can then work with something like this where we're going in and tweaking our simulation. So again, might be a little bit too high in some areas, might be too low in others. Certainly worth playing around with, but you can see how much more of our sort of underwater stuff that we're actually getting there. And a little bit more spray it looks like as well. Let's just play this back again. See what it is that we're sourcing here. Yeah, we're getting some of this spray on the top of this, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, maybe too much underwater, maybe not, but you can always play around with that. And that again is going to be based on this here. So if we're seeing, oh yeah, there's too much maybe underwater happening there, we could maybe tweak the low side of this a little bit. So we're just getting the higher end here something like that. So there's lots of different ways that we can kind of work with this and manipulate it. Let's see here. What do we want from this? Acceleration. That seems like a bit too much, but we could always add in maybe a few more things up there. Maybe that'll get a few more higher level things added, some more features. And then this here, let's play around with this a little bit again. Yeah, actually, I'm going to turn this back to the way it was. I don't actually see a huge difference going on there. So we'll just leave that as it was. But anyways, this is sort of the idea of what we can do with the Whitewater solver, right? This is the idea of sourcing, right? We're sourcing based on our previous simulation, based on curvature, vorticity, acceleration, things like that. You can even use pressure, whatever. And this is how we can then source into these into this Whitewater kind of solver and be able to then have these kind of floating bubbles and foam and different things like that happening within our simulation. So okay, so we've got this going on. Let's now take a look. Let's take a look at what we have and how we would go about doing the how we would drive the ocean kind of spectrum that drives a simulation. So let's take a look at that. So we'll set those up there and we'll just hide them. Let's do this. Let's do a geo node. And we'll say sim ocean waves. And so for this, what I first am just going to do is we're just going to drop down the flip configure ocean layer. Is that the one? I think that's what it is. And the reason I like to use these is because it's a great kind of starting point just to get yourself remembering exactly what it is, how this is all working together, things like that. So here, what we're doing, right, is we are, well, in this case, we're actually making a domain here, right? And we're working on that from the from a shape, right? So we've got a custom shape that we're working with here. So that's how our domain is kind of working. So we're getting this custom domain shape. Then we look at our flip solver here, and we'll see that this is going to be obviously working in a circle. It doesn't have to be that, but it can for sure. I just want to double check something here. Is that okay? Interesting. Yeah, I think this is mainly for the circular thing, but that's okay. All right, so we've got our flip solver here, and so we're getting the information from these for these waves, right, is from our ocean spectrum and ocean evaluate here, and so those actually drive the fluid simulation. And I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Actually, it's in this. Let's say 1.5. There we go. All right. Sorry, just looking at something. Okay, so that's where we're getting these ocean waves from, right? So we're getting this this tank of actually. Nope. Sorry, this is the wrong one, I think. I think what I want to look at is the flip. Wait, did I do the... Which one did I do? Did I do this one? Sorry, I'm forgetting now. Yep, it was that one that I just did. So let's undo that. And let's do it again. Flip. Wave tank. I think that's what I want. Yes, this is what I want. Because first of all, we don't need it to be a circle. So that extra stuff up at the top is kind of not very helpful. So, okay, so let's just get rid of this up here. We don't need the circle part. That's a fun little extra bit, but no reason to worry about that. Okay, so here we go. Let's do this again, 0.15. I like to turn this off from the spheres. There we go. Great. And what we could do as well is we could make this a little bit bigger. Maybe we'll do like 25 by 25. And so let's just hit play here. Let this go. So now obviously if we made these waves big enough, we're going to be getting crashing waves and things like that. Right now we're not really seeing a ton of that, or really any of that. So we could adjust some of these things here to make this a little bit more intense. So let's take a look at what we're doing with our ocean spectrum here. So this ocean spectrum is what drives the overall look of our ocean, right? So we've got a few different things that we set up in here, and these help us to create these sort of, this wave frequency and things like that. Then we put this into the ocean evaluate, and this is what actually kind of calculates all of these things for us, right? This takes this ocean spectrum and turns it into something usable. Now, in this case, we're going to be looking at just a preview grid. This is just something to kind of preview this with. But ultimately, what we're going to be outputting here are volumes, right? Surface and velocity fields. And those are going to go into here for our boundary flow. And that's going to drive this overall simulation. So I believe if we turn this on, I don't know if that's going to like that. Oh, it's fine. Doesn't really matter, I guess, because it doesn't output that at all. No, does it? Sorry, let me just double check. Yes, it does output that, but it's not going to do anything with it, so that's fine. So let's just do the preview grid here, and we can take a look at this and see what it is that we're what it is that we're exactly looking at here. So what it does is it takes in this ocean spectrum. Now there's two different types of ocean spectrum. I actually thought Phillips was the more preferred method. I'm kind of surprised that that isn't the option here, but okay. Maybe not. That seems nice. And so what we can do here is a lot of different things, right? We can adjust the speed. And that's going to, like, the wind speed basically, and that's going to change the height of these waves, right? So we're going to get a lot higher waves here because wind speed is obviously directly related to the waves. Oh, sorry, Zach. I missed your message there. When people are rendering Whitewater, are they mostly just rendering particles or particles along with the volume of the sourcing as fog? Yeah. So honestly, I think you would want to do a few different things. I don't think there's a one answer across the board. Like if you think about what foam is versus, spray particles or mist or whatever versus bubbles, those are all going to be sort of different things. So I think that's something that I'm pretty sure that Side Effects is trying to, is kind of always keeping track of, like, how can we better represent some of these things, right? Model some of these things. But yeah, you probably would want volumes for some of it. You'd want, particle representations for others. And that was kind of why I was saying you might want to group those based on certain thresholds, that those particles will go into those different groups depending on if they're, a certain amount bubble, if they're a certain amount foam, if they're a certain amount spray, they would go into different grouping. Yeah, multi-layer. Yep. Fractaler is agreeing with me. So that is, so I'm glad to hear that other people find the same thing helpful. So yeah, it's kind of finding the right sweet spot of how those all blend together. But again, that's sort of a post process, right? Is finding where those crossover points are that you want for your foam and spray and things like that. So you'd be able to set that up like that. So anyways, so what it is we're looking at here is this is the evaluation of this ocean spectrum. Let's see here. Can we sorry, I'm just trying to remember. There's something in here that is slows this down a lot. I cannot remember what. There's one thing in here. I feel like that if you turn it off. That doesn't do it. It's cool looking though. All right. Well, whatever. Thought there's something in here that would yeah, you would see that, but that's okay. Okay, so basically what we can do here is we can adjust this wind setting. We can also come in here and set up the ability to kind of have different wavelengths that would show up in here. That like I think this is the amount of detail that you might put into this, right? So like your minimum wavelength has to be over a certain size. So like if it's over like, let's see here, 5. No, it doesn't seem to really be doing it either. Interesting. Oh, I think it's maybe this. No. There it is. So you could do something like this and only filter above a certain resolution, right? So you'd get, smoother and smoother results. This is what I was thinking of. And so, yeah, like something like that would be a much smoother, output. Can just change the way that your shaping goes and stuff like that. So just something to keep in mind. Like you'll see it filters out those really tiny little bumps. You can also here do there is a way to do hero waves with this workflow, but I don't think it's in this node if I'm remembering correctly. But anyways, this is sort of the it's here, I think, with these wave instancing points and stuff like that. I think that's where we would do it. Sorry. So you would do it up there probably. Anyways, we can also adjust things like the overall swell. Like I think the overall kind of motion, this kind of deep motion of the waves. So you can do that. The fetch, I believe, is the depth. Distance that it's been acting on the spectrum. So like if you wanted it to be like in a smaller lake with a high wind speed, you would have these smaller waves like this, right? So it'd be something more aligned with that. Maybe it would only be going over a certain small area or whatever with, a lower wind speed or whatnot, So anyways, maybe you would have a different outcome if you were doing it over 300 kilometers, right? Versus over just a few. So let's turn this back up maybe to 10. And the chop is going to be how pointy this gets and how like you can see it's kind of squeezing those areas together at the top of these peaks. So this should now, if I'm not mistaken, this should have a much greater chance of having this ocean kind of like flowing over basically and like cresting at the top of these waves. So let's give this a second here and see what ends up happening. Looks like we actually made the amplitude a little too high and it was going underneath the boundary maybe there for a second. Yeah, it's clipping under the box here. But that's okay. Let's let it keep going and see what we get up to. Let's see here. I think we want to change that to flip actually. And not APEC, if I'm thinking of this correctly. Let me just adjust the boundary of this a little here. So let's do like 7.5. There we go. I still feel like I'm not getting the look that I was wanting out of this. Just let me do a flip book of this so I can have it going in the background while we're looking at it. Hello, flipbook. Hello. There we go. Okay, we're getting a little bit of it happening on the top there. I wonder if feels like it's like too undulating, honestly. Control S, Control S. Let me try something here. Yeah, Control S is a good idea. Also, I want to turn this on. I like to have that on. All right, let's look at this again here, and let's do Phillips maybe instead. I'm just going to set these back to more like that. Also, probably set that to that. Let's see what this looks like here. Yeah, I like that better. Yeah, I think I want a little more directional movement. Excuse me. Let's turn this. Maybe that was part of my problem anyways. Maybe I just was not having enough directional movement. I see those have different, they have different parameters. I see. All right, let's try that. Just see what happens here. We'll do a flip book again. Accessible is saying, did you know that apparently the cache memory had to be reduced when caching so as not to lose RAM unnecessarily? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. We've got too big of a gap in there. Let me just adjust that real quick. Okay, so this is feeling better already. So let's do this at 8. Directional movement, we'll do 0.9. Oh, there we go. I'm like, why am I not seeing anything changing there? There we go. Okay. That should be good. Let's actually turn this down maybe a little bit. Like so. There we go. Do another one. All right, here's what you're. Let's say you put 55 gigs of cache memory on the solver. When using a file cache, will take up RAM to that limit even with the file cache. Yeah, I've never noticed that before. That's interesting. I see what you're saying. So when you're running the file cache, it'll take up that that amount of memory. Yes, if you're running a file cache in the background mode, it will use up more RAM. Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, that's a great point. Because it'll be starting up a new Houdini session, and you're giving it that much RAM for that session as well. Okay, so this is starting to look good. We're getting kind of a nice look here. No, it's no problem. Accessible. No, I appreciate it. I was just trying to understand exactly what it was you're saying, just to make sure that if that was right, then yeah, I just want to make sure I'm giving out good information. But yeah, no, that's exactly the case. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, okay, so we're starting to see here that we're getting the control that we want. I actually think this is much nicer. It seems like it's a much more directional kind of flow to the waves. So I think that's really nice. And what we could do here is, let's just cancel that, save. Maybe what we'll do is we'll make this a little longer and skinnier. So let's do this. In the Z axis, we'll do like 15. And then we'll do like maybe 40, like that. Do this. Is that, yeah, that seems like that's enough. All right. And let's do like some sort of a, let's do some sort of a boulder over here or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. So, so yeah, again, we started basically just with an off the shelf, you know, kind of setup here, but we can obviously take this and do quite a bit more with it. If we look at this ocean surface evaluate, what you can see here is that our ocean will be kind of hitting those shapes. It's not going to hit it exactly, but it will more or less be taking the overall look of that. Now, obviously, this is showing a preview grid. We can turn that off. We could also put in our own input geometry and see that deform as well. So you could do that. Let's take this and let's do a, so this has to come down here, right? So that's like that. Let's see here. Just looking at where this is referencing it from. Oh, right here, domain geometry. I can read. All right, so let's do a flip collider. There we go. And, oh gosh, I don't know. We'll do something kind of similar to what we did before. Let's just take a sphere. Let's see here. There we go. Do polygon. Let's transform it. Down this way. And actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to do a sphere. I am going to do, we're going to do a tube. I think this will be more interesting. Let's do this. Let's do a tube. We'll do end caps on it. We'll do a height of 20. Maybe. No, that's too much. Let's do a height of 10. That is a great point, Zach. I highly appreciate that comment. Also, I'm literally, every time I talk to someone that English is not their first language, it is always shocking to me that people can speak so well. It just blows, as an American who knows one language, it's amazing and blows my mind constantly. So more power to all of you. I have ultimate respect for for people that speak more than one language. All right, so here we go. 15 cross like that. Maybe we will give it a little more height just in case it goes higher. Oh, the other thing we're gonna need to do is actually lift this up, I bet, so that we can have some more volume up here. Just so if it's anything splashes, we'll get a nice look from it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take, I'm just gonna make this like kind of like a weird like towery looking thing. I don't know. Let's take this and go to maybe 5 at the top, maybe 10 at the bottom, something like that. And let's make the overall. Oh, we can do this in the transform. Let's do this here and we'll scale it a little bit in this axis like this. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's do a remesh. I can type. Like I said, still getting used to this keyboard layout. It's a little different than what I'm used to, but I very much like it. Okay, let's up the columns here to 24 just to smooth this out a little bit. And then we can, let's see, make the top of this, actually the bottom could maybe be a little bit here. We could do like 15. It's a little bit more like a cliff maybe then. I don't know. Sure, that looks kind of cool. And let's just smooth this out maybe a little bit. When I bought a mechanical keyboard, it was like I was 5 years old. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling a little bit in that world right now, but I very much like it. It's just, it is very, I mean, I've had mechanical keyboards before. Like I have a, not a great mechanical keyboard. It's just that the layout of this one's a little bit different. Yeah. Yes. Like the squishy memory. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I actually have to switch back and forth because my laptop, I have a mechanical keyboard and this one has a mechanical keyboard as well, but the layout's a little bit different with it. So yeah, I'm just getting used to it. It's, what was it? What brand is this? It's a Keychron. It's very cool. I like it a lot, but definitely still some muscle memory. Okay. Enough of that jabbering. Let's see here. Can we smooth this out a little bit? Let's see. There we go. I was like, what? I'm losing my mind here. I feel like I should be able to smooth this out better. Okay. Looking good. Looking good. Cool, cool, cool. And let's do a let's do the attribute adjust vector. Drop that down and we'll just change this to P and get some noise in here. 0 centered. Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's really cool. Very, very cool. Okay. So that'll probably do it. I don't know. Let's not go too crazy here. Okay, let's undo that. Set it to 5. Just smooth that out a little bit. Cool. All right. Let's call that good. So we've got a rock here that we can use, and let's see what happens here. Let's see what our simulation comes up with. Should be kind of neat. Let's see. Just going to stop this for a second and just kind of reposition a little here, maybe. And let's do a flipbook. Simulations are so quick. I actually feel like you maybe that rock should be slightly different because it's kind of yeah. You could keyframe the amplitude of it for sure. Yeah, because it's constantly evaluating it. So you could keyframe that. Yeah, I think you could very easily. Yeah. Um, also kind of thinking that I actually maybe didn't do myself a favor with um, setting up that rock so that it's like angled back. Think you sort of want it a little more vertical because the collider is going to make a lot of difference here, right? Like with how this is going to, work, right? So, escape, escape, escape. Yeah, because it's kind of all just glancing off of it. So let's see here. What if we do more of a vertical face here? Yes, I know. I know you're upset because you're trying to simulate to frame 77. Just calm down. Mm-hmm. Should have reset my frame first. Oops. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that actually looks kind of cool anyways. I like that. All right, let's try this. See where we get with this. Um Honestly, maybe I'll even scale it down more so it's like even more vertical, like horizontal like that. Okay, cool. Let's try that out. Let's see what happens. Obviously, your collider geometry is going to have a lot to do with this, right? So you want to obviously the better your geometry is, the better your splashes and crashes and things like that are going to be. So let's see. Let's see what happens here. Waiting to surf the wave. Yeah, exactly. I sort of feel like I might need to give it a little bit more, maybe speed or something here. Although it is funny, like I remember sitting and watching, on a kind of on a shore in a spot where there was like an open area where the waves would kind of come underneath like this rock formation and kind of come into this open area and crash in there. Me and my wife were there on vacation and we were watching it and we were like, you would think that it was going to crash really big and then it'd be like, oh, no, it didn't crash. Okay. All right. What about, no, this one didn't crash either. So it is kind of funny. Like, it's hard to like get it to work maybe exactly the way you always want it to, but like, okay, yeah, like there's like a splash happening off to the side here, right there, right? Um, Kind of interesting. Hmm. All right. Let's try some other stuff here. Let's play around with this a little bit. Um, I'm gonna put this up to 1, and let's change the speed a little bit here too. Okay, maybe we'll do this too. Maybe we'll do 4. Okay, so let's just see what this looks like real quick. Hold on. Preview the grid. Let's see this. All right, let's try it. I don't know. It's a little bit of a learning experience for me here too. I mean, let's see what happens. Maybe we'll go totally crazy and this won't work at all. All right. Let's make a new flip book here and see what happens. Already it looks like it's way more like unified. So that's kind of interesting. The anticipation. I think it's going to do it this time. Yeah. It looks like we're getting a splash here. Yep. Cool. And obviously with some white water and spray and things like that, we're going to get a much nicer. You know what? I also wonder, sorry, just one other thing here. We've got collisions. Yes, let's try this. Okay, let's try that. Turn down the collision surface extrapolation because it says it can make that a little sticky. So that makes sense. All right, let's try that because it does look a little sticky. Let it do its thing here. Simulations. I don't get to do as many like big simulation type stuff. Obviously, this isn't even a big simulation, but but it's nice to be doing something like this. Kind of fun. The other thing too that might be kind of hindering us a little bit is that this is um it's not exactly like the biggest. Yeah, that's looking good though. It's not exactly like the biggest simulation either. Hi, Home Depot house plant. What is that? That's a great name. That's ridiculous. I love it. This isn't exactly the biggest simulation either, so the scale might not be adding maybe in the velocities that we would kind of hope for it to be doing, right? So that could be part of it as well. But this is looking good. We're getting somewhere here. So that's kind of nice. I'm liking it. Yeah, that's a great name. Home Depot house plant. Man, ever since I've gotten a house, me and my wife definitely we definitely have a newfound appreciation for the Home Depot and Lowe's. If you're in the US, those are the ones, but anyways. Cool. All right. It looks like we're getting somewhere here with some waves and things like that. So that's kind of cool. Getting some splashes, getting some action here. Cool. Okay. We're going to let this just kind of, we'll call it maybe at this point. Call it there. Maybe what I'll do is just save this to disk up to a certain point. And then we'll let it be. Wow, that's not taking that long to sim. Okay. We'll just interrupt it there. That's fine. No big deal. Cool, cool. All right. So now we've got this loaded from disk. It's not going to go the whole way, but it's going to cut off at a certain point. But we've got fluid. So that's cool. So I'm just going to move this over here, do the same thing we were doing before, get some particles out of it so we can see those. Cool. Great. Okay. So let's do the same thing we were doing before. Let's do our Whitewater source here. And we'll grab it from that. Grab those two, put those in there. I am going to reduce the voxel size on this, though. Let's see here. What did I do on the other one? I feel like I reduced it, but maybe I reduced it more. No, that was where it was. Interesting. All right, we'll do that for right now. Let's come in here and do the same thing we were doing before. So let's just get some data here, here, here. Actually, this one we can set it back because if we remember, we didn't see much of a difference there. And let's just kind of control these a little bit more. Something like that maybe, and like that. Cool. Here we'll just cut out some of these low values. Boost some of the higher ones maybe. that looks good. Whitewater solver. I mean, it looks good. I'm just guessing. All right, so let's drop this down. Frame 58. There we go. And again, when we're using this workflow, we're passing our container and our collisions through. So collision geometry will be seen by the Whitewater solver. We can do our Whitewater post process here. And I think what we were doing was doing that maybe. Let's see here. All right, so let's merge these two together. This is our Whitewater post process. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just grab the coloring that I had over here, and that should be kind of cool. We'll use that again. Paste that here. And yeah, I think we can just set the color of this as well. Maybe we'll set those to black just to get the visuals again. Let's hit play here. There we go. So again, just remember the green are the foam, the blue are the spray, and the red are going to be our bubbles under the water there. So hopefully we'll see some spray come up here when we get this splash. Yeah, there we go. Nice. That's kind of cool. That's something to remember, I think, when you're working with Whitewater, is that we're not when you see a big spray go up, right? In a ocean simulation, or in, say something hits, a rock like this, you're not seeing the actual fluids. Low sucks. This is like a comedy bit or something. What's going on here? That's so funny. Anyways, you're not seeing this. You're not seeing the surface, right? You're actually seeing all of these particles of spray and things like that getting kicked up around it. So that is really what it is that you're seeing, and not specifically like the fluid surface, right? So that's like you get these big bursts of energy. Really, a lot of that is the spray coming off. So it's kind of transitioning that velocity over from your fluid simulation into this whitewater simulation, so that you can have those particles used for your for your spray and things like that. So anyways, let's just take a look at this. You're very welcome. Thanks for the funny name and the funny comments. I like it. Thanks for joining too. So yeah, we're getting some splash there, some spray, things like that. Obviously, as you control this, it's gonna error out there, of course. As you control this, let me set this down to like 155. I think we have that all the way there. Yeah. So obviously, as you control and kind of shape the way that these the velocities and things like that are coming out, you're going to get better and better, quality simulations. But I think this is already starting to look pretty fun. Like there's some really cool stuff happening here, and it's really about taking these ideas and then just refining them and making them, okay, if I add a little bit more velocity, maybe wind velocity to the waves coming in, or add some more directionality to it, adjust my collision geometry a little bit, you're going to get nicer and nicer, results basically. Like this is a pretty basic setup. There's nothing I'm really doing that's overly crazy here. But I think you can see kind of the starting point of how this could then transition over into something even grander and grander. Obviously, as we have more particles in the simulation, first of all, or more resolution in it, you're going to get better quality. You're going to get better quality results because you're allowing there to be greater range of velocities and things like that, greater resolution of what's going on. So, but I think it's starting to look pretty cool, and it hopefully gives you a sense for how you might do this in your own type of work and you know, in your own simulations and things like that. So yeah, I think we've kind of gotten to where we want to get. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them before we wrap up the stream for the day. But I think hopefully we've gotten a decent understanding of how these how whitewater simulations work. I'll let this cache out in the background while we're chatting here. But yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to answer any questions that I possibly can. And if I can't answer a question, I will certainly let you know and see if I can come up with something later down the line. But yeah, I think this is, like I said, I think it's a pretty cool example of what it is that you can do, even just with a really simple setup like this. You know, it's nothing exciting, but if you grabbed, maybe you had a Megascan asset or something of a cliff, and you know, maybe you took that, brought that into your simulation. That's going to give you much better quality than my silly little tube, remeshed tube that I've got going on here. And then if you go, if you take that and like another thing that I've noticed when you look at the geological formations along cliffs and stuff like that, if there's a spot where there's kind of this like under like a movement of water under at a certain level, often it'll actually kind of erode like a little gap almost underneath. And so sometimes when the velocity kind of hits into that little like groove that it's kind of carved out, that's where a lot of those spray and splash and things like that will come from. At least that's what I noticed when I was at this. I don't live anywhere near the ocean, so I don't really have great reference, but what I've seen is things like that where, like, if you have if you think about where erosion would happen from the water and the waves and things like that, that can help your simulations even look better. So let's play this back and see where we get here. Do that, and maybe we can just turn that thing on like that. Let's just get one last flip book here. See what we get. Let it go all the way through. But yeah, I love simulations. I think they're super fun and cool. Obviously, there's so many parameters and things like that you could tweak that I could do streams for a week and never get to all the parameters and, just the whitewater solver itself. But I think seeing some of where those things exist is half of the battle, right? Is like just knowing maybe where to look and how to find those things. And if you want to get into the DOPS workflow, grab the shelf tool, throw down a preset basically, or have it start you on the path to getting these things, right? Like, I know the whitewater workflow in DOPS is a little bit more convoluted than it is using the SOPS workflow. So you could also do your simulation in DOPS, bring it over back into SOPS, and then from there, just do all the whitewater in SOPS. There's no reason you have to move it back over either. So yeah, something you could do there as well. Let's just see what the rest of this looks like. Let it go through its. Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome, Zach. Yeah, I think there's more than another thing too, just to kind of think about with Flip in general. Like it can take a while, right, to source it and do all that kind of stuff, but and get it set up. But I think you can use it for so many different things. I've used Flip for like liquid metal type stuff and all sorts of weird things. So you can do all sorts of stuff with Flip. I feel like it's pretty versatile. So, oh shoot, it only went to 155. Let me just make this a little longer and we can flip book the rest of it, because I'm kind of curious what the rest of it looks like. So we'll just do that. But good. I'm glad it was an inspirational thing. I think that's often what I aim to do, is hopefully be inspirational, and if we can get something cool that people can work with, and make make it your own. I'm always, if you guys do anything with this stuff, always feel free to post it on the Discord server as well. Oh, there's a great segue. If you want to go to HoudiniHangout.com, you can get an invite to the Discord server. You can go on there, chat with people and talk about things or ask questions or whatever. There's lots of things there. You can also give topic suggestions. Like this one was a suggestion that was on there, and I was like, yeah, I haven't done flip in a while, and let's look at some Whitewater stuff and see sort of how that works. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Oh, that's neat. You've got kind of this like wave like rolling across there, and it's just like shooting spray off the top of it right there. That's cool. Oh, I hope that crashes before the end of this. That could be really cool looking. Anyways, it's fun one way or the other. Very cool. Getting a big wave. Big waves coming through. I feel like that's true with a lot of flip is you need kind of some like pre-roll time for this stuff to kind of start up and actually start doing some stuff. So it makes sense that as this goes further, oh yeah, that's as far as we got, but it's still cool looking. But it makes sense that as you go further and further, you're going to get more and more interesting looking results. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to, for my own sake here, I'm going to turn off this color. We're going to visualize. Actually, no, we'll just do it like a straight blue color here. Something like that. And then we're just going to make these guys white. Yeah, cool. And I'm just going to flip book that for my own sake here, just to have maybe a more natural looking flip book here. Then I can grab one of these frames for my still. Anyways, yeah, I think that will kind of wrap it up since I don't see any other questions or any comments or anything like that. So we'll just say that this is kind of wrapping us up here for the day. So thank you all for joining and chatting. Always appreciate that. Like I said, if you guys have any suggestions, jump on the Discord. There's plenty in there. There's tons for me to look through, but oftentimes I have to be like, yeah, I think I could do that before I go and actually try to do something live for a couple hours. So yeah, hopefully this was exciting for everybody, fun. And yeah, so like I said, that's where we'll leave it for tonight. And I will hopefully see you all next week. I am going to be heading out of town that Thursday, so there's a chance I might not be able to do it, but I'm going to give it my best shot to do next week as well. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for being here. Yeah, as always, I appreciate it, and hope to see you all next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.